Hi y'all, it's Kimberly from Sunshine. I thought I would bring you some news and a little bit of education today. So, let's get going. Well, the big question on everyone's mind is when is Sunshine going to be open again? And the answer is, I don't know. We will be open again. It's just hard to tell. The government is planning that schools will reopen on the 8th of March. But this is all dependent on the level of infection, the death rate, and various other issues regarding the vaccine. They hope that they will have the whole country open on the 30th of March. So we are talking that Sunshine will be open somewhere between the 8th and the 30th of March. I don't know when the actual date's going to be. As soon as I know, believe me, I will let you know. So what I thought I would do is I would bring you some staff training. Now that may sound odd because you're going to say, but we're not your staff. And the answer to that is yes, I know that. But I did a presentation to my staff earlier this week where we studied the principles of jumping. And I thought the information that I gave the teachers would be great if I put it up for our riders who also need the exact same information. It also means that if it's up here, if you have questions, you can refer to the video or you can contact me directly. Anyway, so let's take a look at the video and I look forward to seeing you in March. Bye now. Good afternoon, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you to the first of our staff trainings for 2021. Today I thought our topic would be, and is a good topic, is principles of jumping. Here we go, principles of jumping. There are three basic principles of jumping: approach, jump, and land. Now that sounds very logical. I'm approaching the jump, we jump the jump, we land the jump. And the idea is that we don't fall off in any one of these areas. Okay, truth is, or here's my question to you, where do you think most people fall off? Is it in the approach, is it in the jump, or is it in the landing?
Landing.
Approach. Trick question. The horse speaks before the jump and they fly through the jump.
You're absolutely right here.
Woo!
It is indeed the approach. Most falls actually happen in the approach. The landing jumps are quite spectacular. Yes, you know, when they come off during a landing, everyone just watches it on YouTube and goes, ooh! But it's the approach that is actually the most important part. So let's take a look at the approach, okay? With the approach, you have three things you need to worry about. Or not worry, that's a bad term. I want you to think about. And that's your line, your pace, and your lead. Now, those of you who have had riding lessons with me before know I have talked to you unto death about line, pace, lead. You've got to have the correct line, you've got to have the correct pace, and you've got to have the correct lead, or you are going to come a cropper. It's that simple. So let's take a look at that a little bit deeper. You're out in the field, there's your jump. Okay? Nice and simple, isn't it? Straightforward. 2-bar with a filler. Yeah? We've all jumped that before. Well, possibly not Simon recently. First question. How big is that jump?
90. Probably meter. Or meter 20. I'm going with 80.
You don't know, do you?
Oh, I can kind of
Because you didn't go and look at the jump before you jumped it, did you? No. Because it's like, there it is. There's your jump. Go for it. If you're in a riding lesson, your teacher should be telling you, this jump is a 70. This jumps at 85, this jumps at 90, this one's at 120. You need to know that information. And why do you need to know that information? Pace. If that jump, which it isn't, but let's say that jump's at 50, and you're riding a 16-half horse, do you need to canter it? No.
It might be more of a pain to try and get it to trot it like if you're 16-half horses.
Yes, but that is your job as the rider, is to control the horse's speed. You cannot let the horse do the thinking. Never let your horse think, except for one brief millisecond of time, and that we will cover in a moment. You pick the pace. It doesn't like the fact you're asking it to trot, fine. Unless you're doing Grand Prix jumping, you circle that puppy till it listens to you. Because if it isn't going to listen to you on the approach, you're going to get hurt, aren't you? You're going to land on the ground. And who really wants to do that?
No one.
No one. So the question, do I need to canter it? If it's a 50, no. Possibly if you're on Pasha, but he's 13 hands tall. Okay? But if you're on anything bigger than Pasha, do you need to canter it? No. You need to trot it. Now let's say that jumps 75. Do you need to canter it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe. Depends on the height of your horse. If you're riding Tango or Ben, probably you could get away with a nice, good, collected, bouncy trot. But if you're on anybody other than them, you might want to have it in a nice, round, rolling canter. If that's a 90, I don't care what you're riding, you're cantering it. Okay? And if you're riding Pasha and I see you attempt to take a 90, you're in deep trouble because you're over jumping it. So, pace. That you figure out when you're that far away from the jump. Where's the center of the jump? Now this drives me mad. Most people end up getting unbalanced because they don't jump the center of the jump. For some reason they want to jump next to a wing. The center of the jump, you can see where that red arrow is. That's the center of your jump. That's where you're aiming for. That's what you're looking at. And one thing you can always do is that point directly in line with the pole of your horse. Makes it simple. The pole is the bit that's right between their ears. Line that up with the center of the jump and keep it there. You will go over the middle of the jump. And it doesn't matter if it's an upright, or it's a crossbow, or it's a oxer, or it's a spread. In all cases, you hit the middle of the jump. Because if your legs go out, or your hands go out, or something, you're not going to hit anything. But if you're next to a wing, you will go flying through that wing. And that hurts. Okay, next thing we need to be looking at also is treat it like a runway. Okay? It's a runway. And you're going to use your legs, because your hands are going to be busy doing something else here. Don't use your hands to try to steer your horse into a jump. Your hands are busy telling them something different. Use your legs. All right? You're sitting there, so push with that left leg if you need them to go to the right. Push with that right leg if you need them to go to the left. Ride them straight forward through your hips at that jump. Follow the runway in. Now this is where your hands get involved. Where's my next jump? Yeah. Our next jump is to the left. Now, no, we're still on the approach, yet I'm worried about the next jump, aren't I? Because that's part of the lead. We're now into the lead. To tell your horse on the backside of a jump that it needs to suddenly go to the left will mean you end up yanking it in the mouth and they get cross. And what happens with Crystal when she gets cross? What does she do? you have seen Crystal when she gets cross?
She barks.
That's right. Crystal bucks. So, if we know that our next jump is to the left, we need to tell the horse on the approach that they're going to the left, which means we need to change or confirm the lead. That is the leg in the canter that's in front. Now you're 5 strides out. That's what it looks like when you're 5 strides out. And yes, this is at 90. You are correct, Beowulf. So, you're 5 strides out. Alright? At this point, you need to make sure that you have got a left lead on the leg, and you're going to lift your left hand. You're not going to pull it. You're not going to rattle it. You're not going to shake it. You're just going to lift it up. Not very high either. Here's my hands. I'm just going to lift it like that. No higher. And you're going to leave it there. And the other thing you're going to do is you're going to look to your left. Everything's set up. What message have we sent to the horse? We're going to the left. So we're going to go to the left. The horse now knows that. You can't change it. You're going to the left. You are now 3 strides out. That jump's there. You are in the middle. You have the correct pace. You've told them where you're going on the back side of the jump. So you're just going to sit. You're going to squeeze or kick. And you're going to fold and take your position. That's it. That's the approach. So we're back to asking the basic questions. What's the first thing we've got to pick?
Line.
Line,
Pace.
pace, lead. All right? The line is with your legs, the pace is with your seat, and your lead is with your hands and your head. Note, it goes up your body, and then all of a sudden your horse knows exactly what you need him to do. Because at the end of the day, the horse is the one who jumps the jump. You don't. Okay, do you have any questions on this section?
It said there are no such thing as bad horses, only imperfect humans. What about Seamus?
Who trained Seamus? An imperfect human.
To be a bad horse.
Yeah, well, no, he was being retrained by Mr. Charlie. So, Seamus was not a bad horse. He just was trained by an imperfect human. Any other questions? Okay. Well, let's move on then. The points of the jump. Okay? Again, 3 things to think about. The takeoff, the position, and let the horse jump. The thing to understand is that horses jump in an arc. If your horse is jumping naturally and healthily, they will jump in an arc. And this arc is developed by the fact that all the momentum muscularly is going into their hindquarters, which is why we collect them up. It is also based on the momentum of the pace that you have chosen. And they will take off, and they will naturally have an arc that will carry them a certain distance, and they will land. You've seen horses prong over jumps, bunny hop over jumps, slam through jumps,
Not take jumps.
jump sideway over jumps. Yeah, the not to take the jump is all due to the approach being bad.
Right.
If your approach is good, you now need to make sure the takeoff is good. And they've got a nice little arc. So, a perfect jump will mean the height of the arc is right over the center of the jump wing.
The
It's
wing.
kind of logical.
or not the wing, but the entire jump will be in the center of the arc.
Okay.
Okay? It will be equal distance from the takeoff to the actual landing point, which I didn't put in, which is right there. So, if you wait, because you're going, oh my, I don't know when to do this, and it's like, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and kick now. Yes. You will end up cracking your horse with the front feet on the bar, because when they take off, the arc is right against them. If they try to avoid it, you get a takeoff that looks far more like a rear. Your weight's thrown back, you're completely unbalanced. And what happens? On the back side of the jump, you bounce and you hit the ground. The horse's arc remains the same. It isn't any bit shorter. It remains exactly the same. The difference is that you've waited because you didn't have confidence to tell them to take off in the right spot. You're right on the jump, you crack that bar. And, it kind of stings their toes. Their front toes. Or, you're so excited, Beowulf McGinnis, that you decide that you're going to take off way too early.
Just jump it like a spread then. You keep the arc, you stretch the arc out. You put it through a taffy machine if you need to. You can make that arc
So we've got the arc, and when you're coming down, what catches the pole? The back feet. And that's the dangerous one, because that's when the horse can get really tangled into the poles, and the horse can fall.
We've missed part of the technique there. You have a second flying horse, and then you land, and it's just an oxer. Except it's one bar, and not an oxer.
Don't take one bars as oxes.
Okay, can we get back here? This is taking off too long into a fence. And you really, really shouldn't do that either. So the magic question becomes, where's the sweet spot? Where do I take off? And it is actually, I'm sorry to say, math time, guys. We're going to have to do a little mathematizing. And we're going to do this not as we appear up in front of the jump. We're actually going to do this when we are walking the course. Our jump is 60 centimeters high. It's a bog standard jump. Yeah? Almost every single one of our horses can cover a 60 centimeter jump without a lot of hassle. If it's one of the horses, they'll trot it. If it's one of the ponies, they'll do a canter into it. Straightforward, nice, simple 60 cm jump. It doesn't matter if it's a cross pole. Because remember, your horse doesn't see in front of itself, does it? It sees the outside edge. And what's the outside edge set at? 60 centimeters. So what does the horse think? It's 60 centimeters. It can't see in the middle. You can see in the middle. It can't see in the middle. So, your jump is 60 centimeters. Remember, your horse doesn't arc, doesn't it? So, your takeoff position will be 60 centimeters out from the jump plus 1 foot. Why do I give you the 1 foot? Because that's the time you go, oh, I'm supposed to kick. Okay? So 60 in plus a foot, or a step, as I say. That's your takeoff. So if it's 90, it will be 90 centimeters out plus 1 step. If it's 120, it will be 120 centimeters out plus 1 step. That's why pace is so important. If you go barreling into a 60 like it's a 120, you are going to jump it like it's a 120, and it's called an overjump, and it scares you half to death.
Doesn't scare me half to death.
You're weird. But that's why pace is important. You pick the right pace for the height of the jump. You do that as you approach. For your takeoff now, that's nice and smooth. That's going to create a beautiful arc, isn't it? Because the horse is going to take off just at 60, jump over the 60, and it's going to land 60 behind. Isn't it? And that's so smooth. And we like smooth jumps because they don't throw us around in the saddle. And you figure that out before you go into a jumping course, not as you're in the jumping course. Yes, Hugh?
What's the difference between a step and a stride?
A step is about maybe 12 to 18 inches. A stride is usually about 30. You're welcome. So, the
We're
next
good.
section,
You okay?
the next section is all about you. And it's the rider's position. Okay? There are 3 things with the rider's position. You've got, riders will either jump too low, they will jump too high, or they'll just actually manage to hit that sweet spot where they're supposed to be. Now, when you are jumping and your teacher tells you you are too low, it means you are absolutely hugging the horse. Your weight is not above the withers. It's so close that the horse does not have freedom in the withers to be able to pick up to do the jump because you're in the way. The neck will come up, it will bop you in the face. Yes. That's because you're too close. Alright? You need to give distance. If this is the rider, the horse has got to be able to do this underneath. Okay? It's got to be able to rock and to pivot. If you're sitting and you're really on top of it, it's not going to be able to rock and pivot. Okay? The other thing is if you're too high. That's going to cause a whole host of other issues for the horse because you are not parallel and you may or may not be carrying your weight proper, which again causes issues with the horse being able to pick up. You have to carry your weight. So let's take a look a little bit closer onto this. I've got a lovely handout I've given you, which is the exact same thing that's up on the screen now. So let's take a look at position. I always believe that a rider's jumping position starts with their hands. So, if the rider jumps and their hands are too far forward, they're up by the ears, okay? What problems do we have? Well, first of all, we actually have a loss of contact. It is, the reins are so loose that the bit can literally rattle around in the mouth. And that can bother some horses because they suddenly think they have to do everything. Oh my God, I've lost my rider. Another problem with your hands too far forward is you're stretched along the horse's neck. A horse jumps with its head. Literally, it leads with the head. If you are on its neck, is its head free? No. Therefore, you are impinging the horse's ability to do what it does. You need to be parallel with the neck, but you do not need to be up, in, and bothering the neck. Hands either side with some area. Enough area that if you think you're really going to lose it, you can immediately grab in and grab some mane if you need it. But otherwise, your hands are free because you are holding yourself with your own core muscles. And if your hands are too forward, you risk being unbalanced. And we all know what happens if you're unbalanced. You fall off. Okay, so you're not by the ears, your hands are down, and they're underneath you. They're by the pommel. What happens at that point? Well, unlike when your hands are too far forward, you've got way too much contact because you're still holding the reins at the pommel. Therefore, does the horse actually have freedom of the head to jump? No, because you're holding it by the bit. And and you're saying, this is not good. That is what happened with Seamus. Seamus's owner, who trained him originally, was a hand to the pommel, never give the horse its head, and that's why Seamus, on the backside of the jump, used to throw his head, and hence threw you. Videos can be found on YouTube.
Not anymore. They probably nuked off and lost in some hard disk somewhere.
No, we still have them.
Oh, that's good actually.
We bring them up every year on your birthday.
You didn't last year.
Oh, yes, I did. Another problem with your hands being under you is that your weight is not distributed evenly along the neck. Remember, if you're laying on the neck, it's bad, but if your weight is not distributed evenly along that parallel line, again, that's really hard for the horse. And while you're trying to balance yourself, you're sending weird messages to the horse, aren't you? And they're not understanding what's going on. They don't have confidence that you know what you're doing because you are, point 3, unbalanced. And I will tell you now, it is usually that real quick stop that horses take in a jump that has you going over their ears in the jumping phase. When you have got your hands underneath and the horse has decided you are not balanced enough to take this jump, I'm not doing it. You can't make a horse jump. If they don't want to jump, they're not going to jump. They have to know you know what you're doing. You are balanced. You've got the correct amount of contact. You've told them what they need to know. Otherwise, they aren't going to do it. Okay. Body. If you rise out of the saddle slightly, but you're still too low, first thing that's going to happen when those shoulders come up, those withers come towards you, is you are going to get hit in your personals by the pommel. And I know if you're male, it's going to hurt a lot, and if you're female, it's still going to hurt quite a bit. Okay? It's a very uncomfortable situation, and it doesn't matter if you're riding Western or English, you are still going to hurt if you get hit with the pommel. End of. If you are too low in the saddle, you are impinging the movement of the horse. You're getting in its way again. It will not be able to arc fully because it's not going to be able to lift its shoulders up high enough because you've just cracked it in the shoulders because it's just cracked you in the personals. Rather logical on that one, isn't it? And the landing will bounce the rider really hard. No way around that, because you're so close onto the horse, you've got no space for your knees and your ankles to function as shock absorbers. If you're too high in the saddle, there's miles between you and the saddle. Again, you're liable to become unbalanced, and then you're going to grip with your knee. Do we want to grip with our knees, guys?
No.
No, we do not want to grip with our knees, because the minute we grip with our knees, we actually make it so they cannot function as shock absorbers, and we get spinal injuries. So we don't grip with our knees, ever. But that is what happens if you are 15 miles, well, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but if you're fully extended over the top of the saddle, you'd have a tendency to pull those knees in so that you're really hugging the horse. If you're feeling you've got to hug that horse that tight, it probably means your riding position is wrong. And as I stay here, again, a straight leg does not allow for shock absorption. Let's move on to the head. Y'all have heard me say this. Don't look down. If you are looking down, the heaviest part of your body is not paying attention to where you're going, is it? Because on your approach, you've made this beautiful approach, you've come in. It's nice, it's straight, left hand lifted, head looking to the left. Then all of a sudden you tell the horse to look down. What just happened to my left hand?
It dropped.
It dropped. My left hand dropped. My hand, yeah, my head and my hand just dropped. Okay? And when that happens, what have you just told the horse? Something's changed. I thought I was going to the left. Am I going to the right? Am I going straight? What's happening? What's going on? What's going on? Is the horse concentrating on what he's doing?
Also, if you drop the inside hand, the horse can go canter.
Yeah, that's the other problem, is once you drop it, that horse might be thinking it needs to canter, which might not be what you want it to do. And again, when you look down, your head is the heaviest part of your body. Okay? You're getting your balance, dragging down. There's nothing to look at down there. There's nothing you can do anyway. The horse is going over the jump. You can't do anything. Why look at it? Okay, if you are looking up, that chin's up like this, you're going, I'm not going to look at that jump. I'm not looking at that jump. I'm looking at the sky. You get an arch in your back. That doesn't help you at all. Because again, when you land, you're going to get a shock up your back. You don't want that. That's a back injury. If, for some stupid reason, you decide that you're going to take a fall on the backside, and your head's up like this, you're going to land on your chin. Yeah? When you land on your chin, that's your neck. You can break your neck. Not a cool idea. The other thing is if you do everything, you get to the backside, and you're still got an arch of your back and your chin's up, when you land, you get a shock straight up your back and into your neck, which can actually cause whiplash. So you got to do it right, don't you? So, looking at the correct position. If your hands are in the correct position, in the middle, between, I would say, the withers, well, in front of the withers to about halfway up in that area of the neck. The contact is present. The horse can still feel you're on the end of that rein, but it's free. It can jump. Because your hands are there, they're just under your, they're just slightly in front of your shoulders. Your body weight is balanced because your hands are where they need to be. You're not trying to counteract them being in front of you or underneath you. We'll re-edit it back in. Okay, if your body is the proper height out of the saddle, you're being held by your core muscles. You're high enough out of the saddle that the horse is actually able to stretch and arc. Their entire back needs to stretch when they jump. So you're out of the way. But you're not so far that there's a balance issue. The second thing that's actually really important is that when you're the proper height, you're not gripping with your knees. Therefore, your knees and ankles are able to take the shock of the landing, and you can stay balanced. When your chin is level, your head is in the right direction, you can see where you're going, and you can maintain the look of the direction you need to go. You're also, God forbid, something goes wrong, and you are going to take a fall on the backside. If your chin is level, you will be able to take a tuck and roll when you fall. And that is really important. Because if you can tuck your chin and roll off the horse, you will have more spent kinetic energy than just smacking the ground at speed. Therefore, you will have less likelihood of getting injured. Tuck and roll is so important. Learning to fall is really, really, really important. But that's another lecture. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about position now? Does everyone kind of understand when you have a jump lesson with me why I shout at you, your hands are in the wrong place, you're too high, you're too low, get your bum out of the saddle, hold with your lower leg, get your shoulders in the right place, get your shoulders over the withers, because it is creating that middle position where you can jump anything and know that you're going to be able to land safely because your position is strong. Okay. Letting the horse jump. This is really important. And this is really frustrating for me because I watch so many people, from Beowulf all the way down to newbies. I've seen professionals get involved in it and then curse themselves for it because it makes a mistake. Is one thing I learned from Charlie Corral in Sheridan, Wyoming. Just get out of his way. You're not jumping. The horse does the jumping. There is nothing you can do once he's taken off. So don't try to do anything. Just get out of his way, let him concentrate on his job. And you should be thinking about the upcoming landing at this point. The minute he takes off, you need to be preparing yourself for the landing. So don't look down, and if you hear a pole fall, don't look back. Because what are you going to do? Get off the horse and put the pole back up? No. If you're in the middle of a show jumping round, can you do anything if that pole hits the ground? No. There's nothing you can do. You might feel momentarily bad and say, drat, I now have just taken 4 faults. But there is nothing you can do. So don't look back at the pole. Be concentrating on what's going on at that moment and what's going to happen in the next 30 seconds. All right? That is just basic. Once he takes off, nothing you can do. Take your position, hold it good, hold it strong, hold it through the core, and let the horse do his job. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the actual jumping section of what you need to be doing in the jumping section? Oh, super. Enough. All right, the landing. 3 things. When do you take the contact back? When do you sit down? And we're back to our friend, choosing the pace. Does it feel like we're coming around on a full circle now? Okay. When to take the contact back? Never while horse is over a jump. The minute you take that contact back, you're in charge. Are you in charge when the horse is over the top of a jump?
No.
No.
Never. So just wait. Let him do his job. Don't interfere. Wait for all 4 feet to be on the ground. And that's the hardest part. I'll tell you that now. That was the one thing I had just massive amounts of trouble with. Was just waiting until all 4 feet were on the ground, because I'd feel that first set of feet and I'm like, I'm there. We made it. Woo! I haven't died. And then I'm on that contact and his back feet aren't even on the ground.
I am saying fold and hold. Fold and hold the position for about the top 2 steps after.
I seem to remember making you fold, land, and count to 4 before I let you sit down. Okay. The way you retake contact is not by yanking on the reins. Don't be yanking on the reins. Leave. That's stupid. Be calm. Just sit up, sit back, and sit down. Because if your reins were at the perfect height on the approach, and all you did was go forward slightly for the jump, when you sit up, sit back, and sit down, your reins are going to be in the right spot, aren't they? So we don't need to be fiddling with the reins. Because we don't need to be confusing him as to what's going on. Because we're on the back side of the jump, and where are we going?
Next jump.
Which is to the
Jump left.
to the left. So we've already told him this information. If we start doing busyness on the reins, what are we doing? We're giving him new information. He's got to process that. He's thinking about that. Is he thinking about going to the left? All of a sudden, you're going, no, we're going this way. Don't do it. You've given him the information. Just sit up, sit back, and then sit down. Okay? Never gob your horse with the bit. I lose my mind. I see it occasionally at Burley. I've seen it at Horse of the Year. I have seen it at horse shows throughout the world. You're getting frustrated with your horse. You've just had a bad jump. Something's gone wrong. He's unbalanced, you're unbalanced. Somewhere along the line, it's not going good. So what do? They want to get the horse's attention back. They gob them. They grab those reins and they smack that bit in their mouth as if to say, pay attention. Do you know what that does to a horse?
Annoys them.
More importantly, anybody here ever had an ice cream headache? You know, that freezy bit that gets you right here?
Never.
And you go, ooh, yeah? You've just done that to your horse. You have just given them a brain blast of pain. How is that going to help you make the jump that's to your left? Is it?
No.
No. You've let your emotion overcome your common sense of setting up for the next jump. And if it's a bad jump, and if you think you can't make the next jump, then either pull out or retire. But don't gob your horse. Things go wrong. Your horse is a creature just like yourself. It will make mistakes. You will make mistakes. If the mistake is yours, you never punish the horse for your mistakes. That is wrong. So never gob your horse with a bit. Also, you end up with a dentist bill. Okay, second point. When do you sit down? I will say this again. Wait for all 4 feet to be on the ground. And why do we wait? What happens if you sit down early before the back end of the horse is on, has cleared the pole?
You get bounced out.
You're above the horse.
You unbalance the horse, you drop the weight so it goes down a little bit, clip the pole, and you get bounced hard. Is any of that good? No. So just wait. Okay? The first stride after the jump. Now, you heard me say, when I taught Beowulf, land, over the jump, boom, 2, 3, 4, sit. You know that all 4 feet are on the ground then. You then have complete control and balance. You take back that horse, you've got the contact, everybody's happy. The horse has done his job, you're doing your job, you're working as a team to get on to the next one. Let's say something's kind of gone wrong. You've jumped it, and they've dragged a back foot and it's rattled a pole. It's going to land. Is your horse going to be balanced?
No.
No, because mentally it's going, ow, that hurt! You wait until you can feel your horse being balanced. And that means you might have to take a light seat for 2 or 3 strides. And then the horse has got itself back together, going, okay, I'm fine now. And then sit down and take everything and go forward. Don't try to sit down on an unbalanced horse, because that's where you can get stumbles, that's where you can get odd gaits, that's where you can get bounced again.
And injuries.
And injuries, yes. If your horse has gone and cracked the pole, be patient. It didn't mean to drag that foot. It knows that if it drags that foot, it's going to hurt. So just give it that time, okay? And again, in bright red, never balance on the bit. Now that's different from a gob. Okay? If the horse is unbalanced under you, and your position has been a little bit dodgy, pushing down on the bit to hold, and the rein, to hold your balance is bad. Because now not only does your horse have a sore hind foot, or front foot because it's rattled a pole, but you're sending a message up its brain of pain. The bit is there. If it's used properly, it doesn't hurt. But if it's used for you to balance on, you're giving your horse a headache. Is that fair? Would you want it to happen to you? Your balance comes from you. Core muscle, brain. That's where you get balance. Don't ask your horse to balance you. It won't happen. Now, we were talking about shock absorbers and having your leg. Now, that is your standard riding position, isn't it? The red one. Yes? Nice and simple, standard riding position. That's where I want to see everybody's feet. I want to see them nice and level, toes on the stirrup bar. Everything's really good. When you land, do you see how much depth you can take as a shock absorber in that ankle? If you are always riding in that position with the heels that far down, do you have any shock absorbers? No, you don't. This is why you absolutely need to ride with the heel level. We always say heels down, just simply because people like to ride with the heel high. We want to keep the foot level so that you can actually sink into that heel when the horse lands. Okay? And here I've got a picture of Laura Whitaker. No, it isn't. Sorry, it's a Canadian rider. Forgive me. I thought it was Laura Whitaker, but it's not. You can see that ankle's stretched down and she's landing, isn't she? Nice and stretched down. And she's out of the saddle. Back is up nice and high. She has not got control. She's not hanging on to that bit, is she? She's holding herself. There's a little bit of give in the reins. And those ankles land with the front feet, don't they?
I'm just imagining that horse is part of a wheelbarrow race with another horse.
Well, thank you.
Look at this.
Your knees are what absorbs the back feet landing. Okay? So you've got to have stretch in the front and bounce through the knee. If your leg is straight, you aren't going to get that shock absorption in the knee. Your lower leg anchors you securely to the horse, never the knee. Because if your knee is doing the anchoring, I know I've said this before and I'll say it until death. If your knee is doing the anchoring into the horse, then it can't absorb shock. And all you're going to do is just mess up your knees when you're old like me. Choosing the pace. Questions to ask yourself. Where is my next jump? How far is my next jump? And how much time have I got? And these are found during the course walk. Never skip a course walk, those of you who are going to be competing this year. Never skip a course walk. You walk that course. You figure out where you're taking off. You figure out where your next jump is. You figure out how much time you've got between A and B. And you figure out how far that next jump is. It's really important. Most people walk around the courses going, well, where's 1? Okay, where's 2? Where's 3? And they think that's all they have to do. No, you actually need to spend time analyzing what you're going to be doing when. And it doesn't matter if it's show jumping. It doesn't matter if it's field jumping. It doesn't matter if it's cross country. You've got to know what you are doing at what point, because you have to tell your partner. Because your partner doesn't get to do a course walk. Your partner is going to show up with you. You're going to get on his back or her back, and they're going to expect you to know what you're doing. The course walk is vitally important. And my last little thing about pace. Not everything should be cantered. Not everything should be cantered. If you've got tight turns where you need to have good balance and such, you need to make sure that you're using the correct pace so that your horse is balanced through it. If you are doing a cross-country course and you've got 1/4 of a mile between your jumps, do you want to be trotting? That's the only time that you should bring a gallop. And then know when you're going to bring them back in from the gallop to a collected canter so that you can pop those jumps properly. Okay? So, at this point, that's all the information. And I know it was a lot to take in and to look at. There are no bad horses. There's just imperfect humans. Horses will do what we want them to do if we treat them properly, we train them correctly, we show them what they need to be doing. They will do it for us. But the minute they get treated badly, we end up with horses that we go, oh, that's a bad horse. No, it's not bad horses, just imperfect humans. So I hope you take this information, I hope you can internalize it, and I hope you can use it so that you, like me, are a little less imperfect. And on that, I will say thank you.